Hi to my friends. To those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Jessica. I'm a transformational sociologist, which means that I transform the lives of individuals and I also look at their place in the world and transform places so people can live full and vibrant lives. In today's video, we're going to talk about nurturing peaceful relationships with unreliable people and the need to set boundaries. My friends, in our journey through life, we will encounter various types of people, each with their own unique traits and behaviors. Among them, there are those that struggle to keep their word and fulfill their commitments. Now, we can go through life fighting with each of them and breaking relationships, or we can awaken the greatness within us and figure out a way to retain relationships with these people and also looking after ourselves by establishing healthy boundaries. So let's look at the different ways you can retain relationships with unreliable people whilst maintaining healthy boundaries. Point number one, understanding the dynamics. It's essential to recognize that people who frequently fail to keep their word may not do so intentionally. They may have various reasons behind their behavior, such as poor time management skills, difficulty prioritizing tasks, or a lack of awareness of the impact of their actions. Understanding these dynamics can help us approach the situation with empathy and patience. Point number two, the importance of self reflection. Before attempting to address the issue, it is valuable to reflect on ourselves and our expectations. Ask yourself whether you have set clear and realistic expectations, communicated them effectively, and considered the other person's perspective and circumstances. Self reflection helps us approach the situation with a balanced perspective and avoid unnecessary frustrations. Let me give you an example. In my life, I often tend to go over and above to help people, but I also often fail to ask the person what their limitations were, or even when I did know somebody was not quite reliable, instead of being wise and setting boundaries, I just used to think, if I did this or that or the other thing, they will understand that it is good for them to be less selfish too. But life doesn't work that way. We need to understand and respect, I suppose, even people's selfishness and put our boundaries. So if it means that with some people you need to get things in writing before setting things in stone, do it, but do it in a polite way. This brings us to point number three, which is effective communication. Open and honest communication is the foundation to any healthy relationship. When dealing with individuals who struggle to keep their words, it becomes even more crucial. Express your concerns and the impact their unreliability has on you or your shared goals. Clearly articulate your expectations and be open to understanding their perspective as well. A calm and non confrontational approach can often lead to more productive conversations. Point number four, setting boundaries. Establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries is essential when dealing with unreliable humans. Boundaries define what you are willing to accept and what you consider unacceptable. Communicate your boundaries firmly and respectfully. This may involve setting clear deadlines, discussing consequences for unfulfilled commitments, or even limiting your involvement in certain activities. Setting boundaries not only protects your own well being, but also sends a signal to the other person about the importance of their actions. I used to struggle with this because I felt that if I just gave and gave and gave, people will understand that they should keep up their word. But I found to my detriment that people often didn't think that way for various reasons that only they should deal with if they want to live a great life. But then I found very disillusioned and disappointed when these people that I've gone out of my way to help didn't keep their word. So now, often, most times, I try and set my boundaries. If it meant that the person backed off, that was fine. I have set my boundaries and I try to keep my word at all times. So realize that setting boundaries is okay. Point number 5, consistency and accountability. When interacting with someone who struggles to keep their word, consistency is key. Be reliable and follow through on your own commitments. By leading by example, you demonstrate the importance of accountability and the impact it can have on a relationship. At the same time, hold the other person accountable for their actions. This does not necessarily mean being punitive, but rather gently reminding them of their commitments and encouraging them to act responsibly. But remember, just like I mentioned before, sometimes, even no matter how consistent you are, or no matter how accountable you are, you cannot change certain people. So that brings me to lesson number 6, which is to re-evaluate the relationship. When setting boundaries and maintaining peaceful relationships are important, it is also crucial to assess whether the relationship is healthy and worth investing in. Chronic unreliability can strain even the most resilient bonds. Evaluate whether the relationship provides mutual support, growth, and respect. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, it may be necessary to distance yourself from toxic relationships for your own well being. But remember to try everything else. For me, I find it, as I said before, really hard when people whom I've gone out of my way for do not keep their word. I can't live without talking to anybody. So I try and, especially when it's close family or friends, so I try to keep my distance by not doing any more serious work with them, but I still try to maintain my pace. But if there was one lesson you could learn from me, always set the boundaries before you make a commitment with these people, because more often than not, it's not even their fault they can't keep their word, they just don't. So, to finish off, I want to encourage you to think about how you navigate your relationships with unreliable individuals, because this can be challenging, but it is possible to maintain peaceful connections by setting good boundaries and being mindful of our own actions and expectations. My failing, for example, was perhaps to expect more from somebody that I know is a little bit selfish and a little bit unreliable. I can't change them, so I should have had better boundaries. And that's a lesson that I have learned. And I encourage you to not make the same mistakes that I made. So set boundaries early on so you can retain your peace, but also your standards. Remember to approach these situations, though, with empathy, communicate effectively, and hold both yourself and the other person accountable. By fostering a culture of reliability and establishing healthy boundaries, we can navigate these relationships with grace and maintain our own peace of mind. Now, what does this have to do with what I do, which is transforming people and places? Imagine a life, my friends, where you can set boundaries before the relationship gets too flawed, or before you get dragged down a path of inconsistency by a person or people that are not reliable. It can Relationships with unreliable people, if taken too far, can hinder your growth. So I encourage you, as you navigate your greatness journey, make sure you set boundaries early on, but also act with empathy and understand the other person, so those boundaries can protect you and keep you from being disappointed by them. That way, you retain relationships that are close to you. By doing so, you can awaken your greatness and also help them to awaken their greatness by figuring out why people back off from them, figuring out their reasons perhaps for why they are unreliable, and learning to keep their word and communicating effectively. My friends, sparkle wherever you are. If you liked this video, support this new YouTube channel that helps and transforms people and places by subscribing, sharing it with your friends, and encouraging others to subscribe. And more importantly, post in comments or email me privately on the points that you would like to discuss, so we can journey together and make your life great. Until next time, this is Dr. Jessica signing off from the furthest corners of the world.